My ex-husband and his new wife demanded custody of my daughter after disappearing from her life for 8 months. I am 33. I was married to Peter for 8 years. He is now 39. We divorced a year ago because he admitted that for about 3 years he had been having an affair with his ex-girlfriend from college. I didn't expect this at all, since we had a 4-year-old daughter together. That means he continued the affair even after our child was born. It was just beyond the pale, and we decided to divorce. I decided to raise our daughter alone. A few months after the divorce, he married that same ex, Mandy. She is 38. I found out about the wedding from her friends because, naturally, after the divorce, we no longer communicated. I managed to get full custody of my daughter, and he only visited her on weekends, and even then under my supervision. But after the wedding, he completely stopped showing up. That suited me. There was no more awkward silence while he tried to play with our daughter, and I sat in another room, trying my hardest not to throw him out. During the divorce process, he came on weekends a few times, and I allowed it because our daughter liked spending time with him. But when he disappeared, I didn't write to him. Since our divorce, almost a year has passed, and the last time I saw him was about 8 months ago, if I'm not mistaken. All this time, I was just busy with work and the child because essentially I had nothing else to do. But last weekend, Peter suddenly showed up at my daughter's place and we had a very tense conversation. When I opened the door, I thought he had come to see our daughter, but he said he wanted to talk to me. That seemed strange to me. We had no reason to communicate for almost a year, but I still let him speak. And he said that his wife Mandy was going to sue me if I didn't hand over full custody of my daughter to them soon. In her opinion, I, as a single mother, would not be able to provide the child with a decent life, while they could, which meant I was supposedly deliberately depriving my daughter of a normal childhood. Therefore, she considered this grounds to accuse me of neglect toward the child. And so Peter was standing at my door, demanding that I give them my daughter right now. And supposedly, they would soon start the legal process because, according to his wife, I was incapable of raising the child on my own. I just exploded when I heard this and slammed the door in his face. I told him to get lost unless he wanted me to call the police. I couldn't believe he seriously thought he could just show up and demand my child after ignoring her existence for almost a year. I wasn't particularly worried about Mandy's threats because they were completely absurd. She couldn't just sue me for allegedly neglecting my daughter only because I was a single mother. That's nonsense. I wasn't afraid of that, but I was afraid that Peter would come back again and remind my daughter of his existence. It had been hard enough to help her forget about him without telling her the whole truth, and I just couldn't go through that again with her. I didn't like the idea at all that he might get any access to me, because what he said last time was really creepy, and I was scared by the fact that he didn't even understand how abnormal what he was suggesting was. So I decided to temporarily move in with my parents until I felt safe again. That would be convenient because our nanny could also take a couple of days off. And so, 2 days after Peter showed up, I moved in with my parents and have been living with them ever since. After that, Peter didn't make contact until the day before yesterday. He showed up at my parents' house. He knew that was the only other place I could be. But now that my mom and dad were with me, I felt much more confident and ready to fight him. My daughter was sound asleep then, being watched over by my mom upstairs, so even if I shouted, she wouldn't hear anything, and I could say whatever I wanted. He looked upset and said they weren't going to sue me, and even if they wanted to, they couldn't. But he still thought it was unfair that I got full custody just because he cheated. He admitted that the real reason he came back that day was because both he and Mandy felt an emptiness from the absence of my daughter in their lives. Even though she is not her biological mother, she supposedly met my daughter several times while they were together. And when he took our daughter out, they often saw Mandy, so they began to consider themselves her parents too. And Mandy believed she could be a good stepmother if I gave her a chance to prove it. Peter said it was unfair of me to demand full custody knowing that he had no chance for joint custody. Our daughter is still too young, plus he cheated for 3 whole years before confessing. One of the main reasons he didn't get full custody was his job. It required a lot of time and effort. He had to work late and often travel for business. That meant he simply wouldn't have had time to personally care for the child. And I didn't. No Mandy at all, so she couldn't even claim custody regardless of her relationship with Peter. The most his lawyer could get for him was visitation rights. But I don't understand how this is my fault. He deprived himself of the chance for joint custody by cheating on me. His infidelity played a huge role in the court process, and after the divorce, he simply gave up and agreed for me to get full custody. So I honestly don't understand why he blames me for all this. He said he just wanted to reconnect with our daughter. Mandy wanted that too, and that's why they came to ask for another chance. He tried to convince me that they should be given another opportunity to be parents, because in the long run it would supposedly be good for my daughter. He even said that I would regret it if I didn't allow them to reconnect now, because one day my daughter would ask why her father wasn't allowed to be part of her life. To make sure that in the future all the blame wouldn't fall on me, Peter wanted me to give them the opportunity to build a normal relationship with my daughter. He insisted that despite the cheating, he had always been a good father, and Mandy desperately wanted to see her at least one more time. I didn't know what to say at the time, but I definitely felt uncomfortable having them around my daughter. I have zero trust in them on a personal level. My husband betrayed me and lied for 3 years straight. I still haven't let that go, and Mandy was an accomplice to that lie the whole time. So after everything they did, their request to be part of my daughter's life seemed absurd to me. I don't know if I did the right thing, but I told Peter again that the past could not be changed, and it was time for him to accept that our daughter was no longer his. He had been absent from her life for 8 whole months. It had been very hard for me to explain her father's absence to her, and I wasn't going to go through that again just because he and his wife suddenly decided they wanted to play parents. Then I again told him to leave and slammed the door. He left then, but since then he hasn't stopped sending me messages, begging me to give them a chance. He keeps saying that our daughter needs him as much as she needs me and that I will regret my decision, when in the future she starts resenting me for refusing him now. It's gotten to the point where I no longer know if I'm doing the right thing by not letting them be part of our daughter's life, after my ex-husband cheated on me and erased us from his life for 8 months. Update 1. So, I decided not to let him back into our lives. I was crazy to even think about it, but I think it happened in the heat of strong emotions. After all, I saw him for the first time in a very, very long time. But no, it's not going to happen. I talked to my parents about how I felt. They were strongly against even the idea of talking to him again, because he is simply a terrible person who ruined my life and completely destroyed my chances for happiness in future relationships, because he lied and cheated for 3 damn years. Although our marriage seemed quite normal, well, probably not normal enough for him. It's been 2 days since my post, and most of the comments were advising me never to let him near me again and to try to get a restraining order. I think that's exactly what I'll do if he shows up again, because to me, he's not the kind of person who just gives up. I've already contacted my lawyer, and we're trying to terminate any of his parental rights because he clearly does not deserve to be a father. A father who can just abandon his child for months without explanation and return whenever it's convenient is someone you can't trust with a child under any circumstances. And I know this better than anyone. Besides, I don't even know what he was doing for these 8 months. So it's very strange that he thinks I will immediately welcome him back with open arms as soon as he decided he's ready to reconnect with his daughter. Tough luck, dude. That's not how things work. I've already blocked him everywhere because his last messages, where he tried to squeeze sympathy out of me, only made me feel disgusted. He wrote as if I'm the villain and he's the poor sufferer who had his daughter taken away because of my cruelty and selfishness, as if he didn't cheat and vanish. I can't believe I even allowed myself to get emotional at all because of his sudden appearance. Looks like I'm not handling this as well as I thought. I can't afford to be weak again. That's why I listened to the advice given to me here and started looking for a therapist. I think it's a good way to try to put this episode behind me. It will take a lot of time, but maybe I'll stop replaying his betrayal in my head. Update 2. Hi. It's been 3 days since the last update, and today, Peter sent me an email explaining why he even decided to come back to us after so many months. And honestly, even by his standards, this is insane. I don't know exactly what he and Mandy have been doing there, but I'm glad I already managed to talk to my lawyer and stay a step ahead, because a couple of things he wrote are seriously concerning. In the letter, he said that after our divorce was officially finalized, Mandy told him she didn't want him to communicate with me anymore. So he gave up custody of our daughter and decided to focus on his new family life. The reason they broke up back in college was that she was always too family-oriented, and he wanted a woman with ambitions who wanted more than just to get married and have kids. But over time, they both changed. And when they met again a couple of years ago at a college reunion, they realized they had broken up for nothing and started an affair. She left her then-boyfriend, and Peter claims he wanted to tell me everything. But by the time he worked up the courage, I was already pregnant. And the longer he delayed his confession, the harder it became to tell me. Over time, even Mandy began to get attached to our daughter. Everything became too tangled, and he just let it go on for 3 years until he suddenly realized that what he was doing was complete. And if he didn't get his act together, he would live in lies until the end of his days. He confessed to me, we divorced, and he completely gave up custody because he wanted to devote himself entirely to being a good husband to Mandy. Unfortunately, over time, they realized that Mandy still wanted a family, but now she was too old to get pregnant without risking her health. So they decided that instead of trying to have their own child, they could simply ask me to let them co-parent the child Peter already had. That's why he came to me then. When he realized he couldn't scare me into giving up my daughter, he decided to try a less aggressive but more manipulative tactic, which also failed. And now his last chance was simply to tell me the truth and hope I would understand their motives. He wrote that Mandy had already felt like the mother of my daughter at certain moments when the 3 of them were together and I wasn't around, and she just wants to live that life again. And the only person who can give them that is me. And that's what they're pushing on me. Please give us the family we've always dreamed of. Well, you have to give them credit. It takes insane self-confidence and nerve to send such a letter to the woman whose life you both ruined. They lied to me and cheated for 3 years, including when I was pregnant. And now they actually expect my kindness, want me to think about them, and let them have a relationship with the child they threw away like an unwanted toy less than a year ago. And now they've suddenly realized that Mandy is too old to give birth. But they still want a family. They could have done anything. They could have adopted. They could have chosen surrogacy. But no. They decided to do the dumbest thing possible and pressure me into giving them the child they didn't care about. Like, we're talking about my daughter here, not some dress or toy to be passed around. I knew they were both crazy, but this is too much even for Peter and Mandy. I'm glad I already talked to my lawyer and forwarded her this letter, because this is just a circus. The fact that they seriously think I would agree to this is so absurd, I can't even wrap my head around it. It takes a special level of delusion to come to a woman you both betrayed and make such a stupid, unreasonable request. I'm just glad my daughter is still too young to understand all this, because I wouldn't even know how to explain it to her. I can't even make sense of it myself. If all this weren't happening to me, I'd honestly want to know what was going through my ex-husband's and Mandy's heads when they planned it all. It's just absurd. My only goal now is to make sure my daughter and I are safe and doing well. Because who knows what these people might do next. I don't trust them, one bit. And after this letter, they've proven that they can't be trusted at all. Update 3. Yesterday, my lawyer contacted Peter and told him that the petition to terminate his parental rights had already been filed and that he needed to sign it as soon as possible. Otherwise, there would be a new custody trial, which no one would want. Naturally, he didn't take it very well. And today, just a couple of hours ago, Peter and Mandy showed up at my parents' house, right as I was about to leave for work. I told them to get off our property or I'd call the police. They did leave the yard, but were stubborn as hell. Mandy said that by my actions, I was destroying my daughter's future because everyone knows I'm not capable of raising her alone, and that my supposed selfishness was depriving my child of her only chance at a real family. I don't even have words to describe how wrong and personally offensive that was. What does that even mean? I exploded and started screaming at her at the top of my lungs because her words made me furious beyond belief. This woman, who literally destroyed my life, has no right to tell me what my daughter needs or what a family is. She herself destroyed a perfectly happy family, and my husband gladly played along. And now they suddenly decided to play happy family with my daughter. Even a psychiatric patient would understand how absurd that sounds. And yes, I'm fully capable of raising my daughter alone. I have a job, and I earn enough to live decently and give her the life she deserves. So financially, I'm not particularly worried. Maybe one day I'll remarry and she'll have a stepfather, but right now I'm more than enough for her. And again, they themselves cut off contact with her for a whole year because they didn't need her then. And now that they suddenly want her back, I'm suddenly not a good enough mother? They're both so dumb and messed up that it literally hurts me to even think about it. I told them to leave because I was late for work, but Mandy threw a tantrum, right there in the street. She literally sat down in the middle of the road and said I couldn't leave until I let her see my daughter, and that she wouldn't move until I met her demands. It was insane. I asked Peter to get her out of there, but that idiot just sat down next to her. If I hadn't been so angry, I probably would have laughed. But luckily, when my father realized how close I was to snapping, he finally decided to call the police to have them removed by force. We just had to wait for the cops to arrive. And even then, they kept arguing with us and threatening to stage a protest against me because I was allegedly depriving my daughter of a happy life. That word depriving kept triggering me because as far as I know, I'm doing everything possible for my daughter. I'm sure when she grows up, she'll appreciate that I didn't let her crazy father interfere in her upbringing. And who even said she'd be safe with him? How do I know they wouldn't actually kidnap her and run away if they wanted? Because to me, they've already proven they don't care about anyone. I told them everything I thought of them, but they kept insisting I was just personally taking revenge on them and keeping them away out of spite. Well, of course. In my place, anyone would feel the same way. They destroyed my personal life. So yes, it's perfectly fair and logical that I have a personal vendetta against them. The fight went on for quite a while until the police arrived and took them away. And even then, they didn't realize they were acting insane. They kept threatening me, saying they'd be back and wouldn't let me keep them away from their daughter anymore. Honestly, that scares me on a whole new level. I decided to stay home because after their stunt, I became truly paranoid. I also filed for a restraining order today. I think this should have happened long ago because today, they showed just how unhinged they can get when things don't go their way. I even found the whole circus a little funny, but I won't lie. It was also truly frightening. So I'm doing everything I can to get rid of this couple completely. I'll be moving into a new apartment soon because now no address my ex-husband. Knows feels safe to me. Update 4. I moved into a new apartment and luckily Peter now has no idea where I live. I also managed to get a restraining order and now I officially have full custody of my daughter. Over the last few weeks, I've been able to keep my sanity and thankfully finally got out of all this absurd nonsense. I don't know what Peter and Mandy are doing now. I told all my friends I never want to hear anything about them again, and that they shouldn't tell them anything about me either. The last few weeks have been very stressful for me because my ex kept texting me and bothering me from different numbers. He would go quiet for a while, then reappear, and Mandy was spreading nasty rumors about me. So I'm sure this sweet couple tried their hardest to destroy me, but they failed. My daughter is fine, and so am I. And that's all that really matters to me. I'm her whole family, just like she's my whole family. Thank you for watching this video until the end. Watch our previous video, which you can see right here. Be sure to subscribe to our channel if for some reason you haven't yet. Like the video, and good luck.